There is a silence that most men run from. Not the silence of peace, not the silence of meditation, but a darker, colder silence. The kind that reveals what you truly are when no one is watching. The ancient warriors of northern Greece called it the room with no echoes, a place where excuses die and only your real discipline or your real weakness remains. The ice monk warns, most men are not destroyed by failure or by chaos. They are destroyed by silence, because silence exposes the truth they avoid. You know a man like this, a man who wakes up tired even when he slept enough, a man who keeps saying he'll start tomorrow, a man who promises himself discipline but only delivers shortcuts, a man whose mind is constantly loud yet whose actions are painfully quiet. His name doesn't matter, because he is a reflection you already know. He wakes, reaches for his phone before he reaches for his breath, scrolls, distracts, numbs. His mind is filled with noise, yet his life remains unchanged. Every night he swears he will do better. Every morning he breaks that oath. And modern psychology calls this a motivation problem. But ancient philosophy saw something far more sinister. The Greeks believed that a man is tested not by battle, not by enemies, not by suffering, but by what he does alone, when there is no audience, no praise, no punishment, only himself and the silence he fears. The Taoists taught the same truth in a different way. A man who fills his days with noise is a man who is terrified of meeting himself. And this is the real problem. Most men are not tired. They are spiritually disordered, disconnected from their inner command, dragged by impulses instead of directed by identity. This is the fracture inside the modern man, and this is why the ice monk speaks. In the mountains of northern Greece, winter was not an inconvenience, it was a judge. Snowfall was not poetic, it was a test of structure, focus, and internal fire. Those who lacked discipline froze not from cold, but from disorganization. Because nature does not negotiate. Weak preparation means death. This is the environment that formed the system the ice monk carries. The monks believed that silence was not absence, but presence. Not emptiness, but measurement. A mirror that reflects how internally disciplined you are. Their ancient law was simple. If a man cannot endure silence, he cannot endure himself. The Taoists added another layer. The mind that seeks constant noise is a mind afraid of its own shadow. When you blend these two worlds, Greek austerity and Taoist internal discipline, a brutal truth emerges. Your environment is not your enemy. Your impulses are not your enemy. Your responsibilities are not your enemy. Your true enemy is the version of you that cannot stand silence. Because silence exposes the lies you live with. This is why undisciplined men suffer so deeply, not because life is hard, but because they have nowhere to hide from themselves. The ice monk's system begins here, with the cold, with the mountains, and with the silence that strips away illusions. Inside every man, there is a war, not between good and evil, not between strength and weakness, but between identity and impulse. Modern psychology calls it cognitive dissonance. Ancient warriors called it the battle for the throne. Because inside your mind, there is always a throne, and only one identity can sit on it. The disciplined self, or the undisciplined self. But here's the painful truth. Your undisciplined self is older. It has been fed more. It knows every trick. It knows every excuse, and it fights dirty. When you try to change, it whispers, "You're tired. You deserve a break. You'll start tomorrow. This is too much. This isn't you." These are not random thoughts. They are the unconscious strategies of a weakening identity fighting for survival. In the mountains, the ice monks describe this moment as the cracking of the inner ice. When your old self feels threatened, it thrashes. It begs. It bargains. This is why discipline feels painful. You are killing an identity that has lived inside you for years. The Taoists explained it like this: when you strengthen your higher self, your lower self panics. Confusion and fatigue are not signs of failure. They are signs of internal war. And that war is necessary. It is the gate you must fight through. There is no shortcut, no hack, no easy version. Identity transformation is combat, and silence is the battlefield. Every ancient system had one uncomfortable rule: choose one path and stop negotiating. The Spartans had it, the Stoics lived it, the Taoists surrendered to it, and the ice monks enforced it with precision. They believed this: a man who keeps changing paths never arrives anywhere. In modern life, this shows up like this. You start a habit, then switch to another. You commit to discipline, then renegotiate when it gets uncomfortable. You promise consistency, then allow moods to override identity. This is why men stay stuck. Too many paths, too much negotiation, too much emotional involvement. The ice monk's brutal lesson is simple. Your feelings do not matter, your identity does. This is the core of the one path. You choose the identity that aligns with your higher self. Then you do not renegotiate with your weaker self. This is how ancient warriors created unbreakable discipline. They made one choice and protected it with their life. Modern men fail because they make the same choice every day and break it every night. In Taoist practice, consistency is not a discipline, it is a physics. Nature is consistent. Water does not forget to flow. Wind does not skip a day. The tide does not negotiate with fatigue. The ice monks studied nature obsessively. They believed that a man becomes powerful only when he practices the same way nature behaves, continuously, smoothly, without gaps. A gap is not missing a day. A gap is identity decay. Each gap sends a message to your subconscious. I am not this person. This is why missing one day often turns into missing a week. Because discipline is not a task. It's a story your brain tells about who you are. When the story breaks, you break with it. Behavioral psychology confirms what the ancients already knew. Small breaks destroy self-trust, and a man without self-trust cannot build anything lasting. So the ice monks created a law. Practice every day, even if you practice weekly. Because a weak repetition is infinitely stronger than a skipped one. A small win keeps the identity alive. A tiny step keeps the throne intact. This is why the undisciplined man collapses. He thinks discipline requires intensity, but true discipline requires continuity. Ancient warriors were not strong because they reacted well. They were strong because they prepared before anything happened. This is the concept of pre-solutions, solutions designed before the problem appears. Greek strategists trained for ambushes before they were ambushed. Taoist monks built rituals for emotional storms before the storms arrived. The ice monks took vows, not for morality, but for consistency. The modern man, however, struggles because he improvises his life. He waits to be tired, then tries to find motivation. He waits to be stressed, then searches for calm. He waits to be tempted, then attempts self-control. This is why he loses. The ancient systems required pre-decisions. You decide your actions before emotion interferes. Examples: you prepare your workout gear the night before. You decide your morning routine before the morning arrives. You choose your boundaries before temptation comes. You plan your discipline when your mind is clear, not when it's weak. The ice monk summarizes it like this: discipline collapses only when decisions are made in the heat of emotion. Your weaker self should never be allowed to choose your path. That decision must be made by your highest identity, in silence, in clarity, in truth. Here is the final truth. There is no disciplined man and undisciplined man. There is only the man who wins the war inside himself. Transformation is not a surge of motivation. It is not a heroic moment. It is not a cinematic rise. Transformation is the quiet death of the weaker self. The moment you stop running from silence, you meet your real identity. The moment you withstand the internal war, your disciplined self takes the throne. The moment you choose one path, you stop betraying yourself. The moment you practice without gaps, your identity becomes unshakable. And the moment you create pre-solutions, life no longer bends you. This is how the ice monk transforms men, not by giving them motivation, but by revealing the parts of themselves they have been hiding from. If this philosophy resonates with you, if the silence no longer repels you, if you feel the disciplined self waking within you, then subscribe and continue walking the path of enduring flow, where the cold is your teacher, silence is your mirror, and discipline becomes your nature.